Hello and welcome back to Tao Holistic Wellness. I wanted to continue with the 5 Elements series and start heading into the element Earth and the videos we need for that. But first, I think I have to discuss another important factor that will allow us to more easily understand that video and the Earth element as a whole. And it's called the Six Pernicious Influences in Chinese medicine. And these are basically the pathogens or disease-causing factors. But really, they're more like organic damaging factors than pathogens in Western medicine. They come out of things that can be easily witnessed and described in nature without much extra technological research. It mostly works on the basis of intuition and holism. So, as we know in the 5 elements, there's a governing cycle, which is following in the order of the seasons. Wood becoming fire, fire to earth, earth to metal, and metal to water, and water back to wood. And there's also a controlling cycle. Water controls fire, fire controls metal, metal controls wood, wood controls earth, and earth controls water. So when there's a relatively good balance of all 5 elements, the pernicious influences can't really take hold because they work off of an aggravation or deficiency in one of the elements or in one of its officials, or in the interconnecting systems. The first one is heat. And heat is related to excess fire. Heat is like fevers, redness in the face. It can also be anxiety, heat in the blood. It's kind of a general feeling of burning and prickly uneasiness. It's agitated. And when heat is really out of control, it can actually physically damage tissues and organs. That's why we get burned. It's too much heat on our skin. So the element metal, which controls skin, has like a healthy range of temperature that it tries to preserve. And that happens through homeostasis, sweating, thermoregulation. But too much heat will immediately damage those in the form of acute burns. There's another variation on heat, known as summer fire or summer heat. And it's particularly associated with the summertime. We might know it as that feeling when you're out in the sun all day and you feel really sluggish and almost unable to move. It's like there's too much disorder in the atmosphere from the heat, and making useful work out of that energy has become difficult because it's too excessive and bearing down too intensely. And summer heat can cause sunburns and other things of that sort of nature that we see in the summer. Heat stroke, overexhaustion, and dizziness, fainting, things like that. Following on from fire is earth, which is related to damp. Dampness, we all know external dampness, that feeling like you're walking somewhere and you get your socks wet, and then there's that unpleasantness from the dampness in your shoe. Or you get rained on and all of your clothes are wet and they're sticking to you. And dampness can really attract and hold in a lot of other problems like cold or heat issues. Dampness can also happen internally based on diet. I know for me personally, cheese is notorious for causing damp. If I eat cheese, I'll often feel very unmotivated to move and unable to produce work. And it's that heavy quality, that sticky, kind of gooey, thick filminess of it. And it has also a lot of non-useful minerals, which is left in the gut as damp. Anything that isn't digested will become damp. There's also a more severe version of damp called phlegm, where dampness has hung around for too long and it's condensed even further, got into an even lower, stickier, heavier vibration. And phlegm can cause death even, like in pneumonia cases, and just blocking up nasal and oral passages, and the whole head gets stuffy. Phlegm is a lot harder to move than damp. It's like a chronic damp. Ginger tea is good for damp and phlegm conditions. So after that, we get to metal. And the pernicious influence that metal is weak to is dryness. As we know, the whole body likes moisture of a certain level. H2O is essential for the body to function, and we need a good amount of it to be hydrated. So dryness could be an internal dehydration for your cells. They're not getting enough H2O to work, and that will create a lot of free radicals, oxidation, and other things that can't be moved out without water. Dryness can also affect mucous membranes like the mouth, throat, eyes, nose, anywhere else that has a mucous membrane. And when those are dried out, it will lose its youthfulness. It won't be very stretchy. It'll be cracking and chapped, or something of that nature. Following in the cycle is cold. For water, cold is also a very dangerous one of these influences. Cold, if we're unsheltered from cold, it can kill us decently quickly, because in coldness, chi will stop completely. Molecules do not vibrate, and cells freeze and die. Frostbite is a good example of this, or it can just be a more general exposure to a chilliness that you shouldn't have, which weakens your immune system and lets in illnesses and compromises the immune system. You can also have freeze burns from acute temperature drops, and you can also have coldness in the lower burner area where the sex cells are usually produced, and this can be halted very easily by cold, which in Chinese medicine means the jing is frozen and is not producing energy. The last of these pernicious influences relates to wood, and it's called wind. And wind is a sort of loss of coherence to the integrity of the system. Wind often comes in the form of nervous system disorders, twitches, and tics. It can also manifest as dizziness and nystagmus, where your eyes vibrate around and you can't hold them still. Wind is basically the yang qi or yin qi not being held correctly, and it's escaping. and diffusing in a way that's no longer functional to the cycle. It's just kind of random motion. Wind is increased by the use of drugs, and it also can happen in conjunction with the other pernicious influences. So these complications can actually aggregate together at the same time. You can have both hot and cold illnesses at once. You can have both dry and damp conditions at the same time. And wind and phlegm, or any other mix and match you want. Because the pathogens are complex, they're affecting a network of relationships. It's not one thing that you can point to, it's a whole picture of symptoms. And the reason this is important for going further with the 5 Elements series is to understand how yin and yang is self-regulating. And earth, the central element, is where all the qualities are hopefully mixed together in equal balance, therefore creating a healthy constitution and immunity. So the ideal earth element requires a balance of all the other elements to function, and an imbalanced earth is also an imbalance to all the other functions. Thank you for watching. I look forward to getting more into the earth element as we go along the series. Thank you, and have a great day.